Thom Hartmann Program. You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program.
So, if you make your living sitting on your butt around the pool waiting for the dividend check to arrive, like 5 of the richest people in America, the Walton heirs, do, for example. Actually, there's 88 of the top 400 Americans report no wages whatsoever, according to Warren Buffett. They all literally make their living sitting around the pool on their butts waiting for the dividend checks to arrive. No taxable income at all as wage income. They got capital gains income. In other words, they got the dividend checks. They got the capital gains checks on which you pay a maximum 15% interest. So Warren Buffett wrote this piece for the New York Times the other day, and he said, the mega rich pay income taxes at a rate of 15%, which is the top income tax rate if you earn your living by using money rather than the sweat of your brow or the labor of your arms. If you're a bankster or if you inherited wealth, like the old-fashioned way, like in Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged, where the Dabney inherited the railroad from her daddy. So if you're rich that way, because you're a bankster, a transnational CEO, or you inherited money, you pay a maximum 15%. Anyhow, Warren Buffett, the mega rich pay income taxes at a rate of 15% of most of their earnings, but pay practically nothing in payroll taxes. Keep in mind, Social Security taxes are only paid on the first $106,000 worth of income. He says it's a different story for the middle class. Typically, they fall into the 15% and 25% income tax brackets, but then are hit with heavy payroll taxes to boot. He points out that according to IRS data in 1992, this is just 19 years ago, the top 400 paid 29.2% income taxes and virtually nothing in payroll taxes. In 2008, that had fallen from 29% down to 21%. And he talks about how he pays virtually nothing. He says he only paid 17.4% below any of the other 20 people in his office, including his secretary. He starts out by saying, our leaders have been asking for shared sacrifice, but when they do the asking, they spared me. I checked with my mega-rich friends to learn what pain they were expecting. They, too, were left untouched. While the poor and middle class fight for us in Afghanistan, and while most Americans struggle to make ends meet, we mega-rich continue to get our extraordinary tax breaks. And he says these blessings are showered upon us by legislators in Washington who feel compelled to protect us, much as if we were spotted owls or some other endangered species. It's nice to have friends in high places. Now, here's what Fox News had to say about Warren Buffett suggesting that billionaires should simply pay the same tax rate as their secretaries.
Warren Buffett wrote an op-ed in the New York Times today. He said we should be, I think you mentioned it earlier, we should be taxed more. I guess people who are earning a living.
Coddling you guys
the ones who
over
are
there.
creating
All you
jobs,
rich people on the other side.
the job creators, tax them a little bit more because they're not doing enough already. What is this? I mean, is he completely a socialist and he's playing into Mr. Obama's hands of, tax anyone who makes money and give it to people who don't work?
Right, the job creators. The billionaires in this country have actually shipped more jobs offshore over the last 20 years than they have created here in the United States. But that's beside the point. That doesn't fit in with Fox's talking points. Here's what Rick Perry had to say about it.
I don't know what he's worth, 80 billion or 30 billion or whatever it is. He's never going to spend all his money. So, taking money away from Warren Buffett is not going to affect anything.
Well, actually, you could take money away from Warren Buffett and build bridges with it, couldn't you? Peter Ferrara with the Heartland Institute, heartland.org, Senior Fellow for Entitlement and Budget Policy, on the line with us. He's the author of America's Ticking Bankruptcy Bomb. So, Peter, is it socialism to have millionaires and billionaires pay the same tax rates as people like you and me?
Well, you have the top 1% of income earners paying 95% of all federal income taxes, even before Obama was elected, while the bottom 50% pay
That's
no
not the question I asked you.
So to say the rich aren't paying their fair share is abuse of ignorance.
Peter, is it socialism to have millionaires and billionaires pay the same tax rate as the rest of us?
Buffett's analysis is completely confused and ignorant because he's not taking into account the multiple taxation of capital. Capital is taxed 4 times, not just by the capital gains tax, not just in addition by the dividends tax, but also by the corporate income tax, by the death tax. So you've got the capital gains tax, the individual income tax, the corporate tax, and the death tax. And Buffett only looks at, in the case of capital gains tax, just the capital gains rate. He's not looking at all those other rates.
He's looking at the taxes that he had to pay to the IRS at the end of the year. He's comparing his IRS forms with that of his secretary. His secretary paid 36%. The most highly paid person in his firm paid 41%, and that includes state taxes, and he paid 17.4%. Again, I'll ask you, is it socialism to ask millionaires and billionaires or people like the Walton heirs who make their living sitting on their butts around the pool waiting for the dividend check to arrive to pay the same income tax rate that you and I pay?
That's inaccurate. Buffett's statement is inaccurate because he's only taken into account.
I don't care if his statement is accurate or not. I'm asking you a direct question.
Just interview yourself, and let me know when my interview starts. There's only 4 minutes left in my interview. Let me know when it starts.
It's a direct question. Is it socialism? No, you haven't answered the question. Is it or is it not?
Already. What, are you stupid?
Well, no, I don't think I am. Is it or is it not socialism to ask billionaires to pay the same tax rate as working people?
And Buffett is not taking all those into account, so his analysis is ignorant, just like you are.
Okay, we've established you think I'm ignorant, but I still don't. I'm trying to get your opinion, Peter. I'm just genuinely asking, where does socialism begin and end? I mean, in the European countries, you can't have a maximum 15% income tax rate by earning capital gains. Capital gains are taxed the same as ordinary income. Should we do that here in the United States or not?
Most of our international competitors do not tax capital gains the same as ordinary income. So if we did that, we'd be at an extraordinary disadvantage, and working people would lose jobs and suffer lower wages as a result. In fact, in the last 40 years, every time they've raised the capital gains rate, they've lost revenue, and every time they've cut the capital gains rate, they've gained revenue. So it's particularly stupid to argue for higher capital gains tax rates like Buffett is doing.
Well, you know, I remember '86 when Reagan cut the capital gains rate, and I owned a small business in Atlanta, and what did I do? I sold it because hey, when the tax rate goes down, or actually Reagan raised the capital gains tax rate up to 28% in '87, and when it was announced in '86 that he was going to raise it up to 28%, Louise and I had been planning on selling the business sometime in the next 5 years anyway. It was doing very well, and we said, okay, let's sell it now. We took the money, we moved to Germany, we retired for a year, put our kids in the local schools, took a year off in Europe, wrote a book, did some international relief work. But, you know, the fact of the matter is that, yeah, you'll see a 1 year or a 2 year boost in revenues when you, actually, in this case, Reagan raised the capital gains rate. And it raised income.
The revenues decline.
Okay, then the revenues would have been, because the revenues were in the previous year, because everybody sold their businesses the previous year. All it did was increase mergers and acquisitions activity. But I'll bet if you looked at 5 and 10 year chunks rather than 1 year chunks,
have risen, and every time they've raised the rates, the revenues decline. The same thing happened in the 1990s. The same thing happened in 2003.
Well, let's stipulate that everything you're saying is true, Peter. Is it the right thing to do to say that people who earn their living sitting on their butt around the pool waiting for the dividend check should pay half the income tax rate that people who you know, hammer nails all day long or mop floors in hospitals pay?
No, it's not. That's why they pay 4 tax rates, not just that one tax rate, which is something you can't understand no matter how many times I explain it to you, and something Buffett doesn't understand and the New York Times wants to hide, but I just explained it to you.
So you're suggesting that Warren Buffett, the third richest man in the world, or one of the third, maybe the third richest man in America, doesn't understand basic economics or tax policy?
He doesn't have a tax advisor. He just does the normal taxes. So he doesn't understand the tax system.
What, he calls H&R Block?
And he doesn't he's not taking into account all the tax rates. When you raise the tax rates, producers keep less of what they produce, so incentives are reduced for all productive activities, and jobs and wages for working people decline. When you lower the rates, producers keep more of what they produce, so incentives are increased for all productive activities, and jobs and wages for working people increases as a result. That was demonstrated in the 1920s, the 1960s, the 1980s, and the 2000s.
Yeah, Herbert Hoover did a great job at demonstrating that.
The economy boomed. As part of the historical record, you can't change history, so you can keep saying that nonsense.
Hang on
this
just a second,
is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Okay, Peter, you had the last word, and we'll just leave it right there. Peter Ferrara with the Heartland Institute, the Heartland, or heartland.org. Thank you, Peter.